What's up, all you awakened savages, and welcome back. Now, today we're going to discuss the lie of comfort. Now, have you ever looked in the mirror and just thought, when did I stop going for it? Right? When did I stop being a savage? Right? Maybe not just in business, not just in your goals, but you. When did you stop living with teeth? Because I bet at some point you had big dreams, right? You believed that you could be dangerous. And I don't mean dangerous like reckless and chaotic, but being alive, sharp, clear. And now you manage, you just cope, right? You trade conviction for calmness. You tell yourself you're being mindful or being more spiritual. But deep down, you know that's just bullshit because you know it's fear. Let's call it what it is, right? You've got comfortable, right? And guess what? Comfort is a killer. It softens the edge. It silences your truth, right? It tells you that having a dad bod is cool, right? It convinces you that surviving is the same as living. But you didn't come here to survive. You came here to thrive. You didn't come here to be balanced. You came here to be a fucking force to be reckoned with. You came here to be dangerous. You came here to be an awakened savage. Right? And if something inside of you has been feeling restless, and I don't mean like broken, but you're just bored. You're fucking fed up. Right? You're in the right place. Because let's remember what it feels like to be dangerous again. Right? Because no man consciously chooses to dim his light. They don't wake up one morning and say, I'm done being a savage. I'm done being powerful. It happens in these quiet moments, right? Small concessions, right? Tiny fractures in the mirror of your life. And over time, little by little, your edge dulls, right? You stop raising your voice, but not out of wisdom, but because it causes too much tension. You stop going all in on your dreams, not because they're unrealistic, but because you don't want to rock the boat, right? You stop speaking your truth to your partner, your team, your family, whoever. And it's not because you've mastered communication, but because you're fucking exhausted. Right? One decision at a time, you go from being this force of nature to this fucking nice guy with a calendar. Right? And let me tell you what's happening under the surface of all of this. Right? You're not weak, right? You're over adapting. Okay? Because your nervous system is hardwired for survival. Right? And in any moment of stress, it toggles between fight, flight, or freeze. Right? And see, for many men, especially those like myself who had carried long-term emotional load without the proper tools, their system adapts towards freeze. Right? You don't speak up, you shut down. Right? You call it calm, but your body's in this quiet collapse. Right? And it's not just emotional. Right? See, cortisol, right? That's the stress hormone. That spikes. Testosterone drops. Dopamine patterns get rerouted towards passive reward. Drinking, drugging, scrolling, snacking, porn, overworking, overthinking. Right? And over time, your biology stops fueling expansion and starts prioritizing containment. Right? Not safety, just less perceived threat. Okay, and there's a concept in psychology called fawn response, right? It's when the nervous system learns that avoiding conflict equals survival. So you become overly accommodating, right? You lose access to your anger because you've mistaken it for danger, right? But suppressed anger doesn't just poof, fucking disappear. It goes inwards, right? And it leads to shame, or it leaks outwards and you become passive aggressive, right? You become polite, but fucking resentful, nice, but numb, right? Because it's easier to numb than to confront what's not working. It's easier to cope than to lead, but there's a cost, right? You stop trusting your own fire. You fear your ambition. You doubt your edge. You tell yourself, this is just who I am now. Right? But the part of you that wants to build, to risk, to expand, that's not wrong. That's truth trying to resurface. Right? You didn't trade power for peace. You traded it for temporary safety. And you know what that's costing you? That's fucking costing you your legacy. Right? And if you look at it from a soul perspective, right? Every contraction is an initiation in disguise. So when you stop leading, expressing, risking, it's not because your spirit is gone, it's because your identity is too small to carry it. Right? Spirit waits behind the door that you won't walk through or you're too scared to walk through. Right? Not punishing you, but it's requiring you to remember who the fuck you are. Right? You were never designed to be domesticated. You were designed to build kingdoms with your bare fucking hands. But kingdoms aren't built in comfort. They're built in tension, right? Realigned with presence and created in devotion. Right? So you didn't trade your power for your peace. You traded it for safety, perceived safety. And see, that safety is draining your energy, eroding your confidence, and totally fucking dulling your edge. Right? But see the good news. See what you've suppressed. It's still alive. Your fire is not gone. It's just buried under years of adaptation. And today we're going to dig that shit up. Okay? Because, you know, safety addiction, it drains your power. Right? You're not tired because life is too hard. You're tired because you've been bleeding energy trying to stay safe. And this is the trap of safety addiction. Right? If you look at, conflict avoidance, that equals identity erosion. So every time you avoid a difficult conversation, every time you say yes when your gut is screaming no, you train your nervous system to equate silence with survival. Right? And this is what most men will miss. See, when you avoid outer conflict, you create inner war. Right? You fracture your coherence. You stop trusting your own signal. And over time, you don't even know what you want anymore. You just know that you're fucking tired. This isn't peace. This is paralysis. Right? And if we look at low stakes living, right, you stopped risking, not because you have nothing to offer, but because your identity can't handle rejection. So guess what? You go and play it safe. Right? You stay in the stable job that is slowly killing your spirit. Right? You stay quiet in relationships because at least it's not chaos. You stay in routine because routine doesn't ask you to stretch and, break out that comfort zone. Right? But biology doesn't respect comfort. It only rewards growth. Right? Your dopamine system, the part of your brain that governs motivation, that activates when you face risk with agency. And the more you avoid risk, the more your brain turns down the volume on your purpose. And you don't feel numb because you're fucking broken. You feel numb because you've stopped stretching and reaching for what it is that will truly make you grow. Okay, and then we look at the nervous system over control. And this is a subtle one, right? You regulate everything, right? You might meditate, journal, you control your breath, your thoughts, your tone. Right? See, but underneath that control, that's often fear of feeling too much. Okay, you have mastered containment, but you've lost touch with expression. And you might look all calm on the outside, but your body in constant scan mode. Okay, trying not to feel, react, or just fucking explode. That's not nervous system regulation. That's emotional armoring. Right? And then if we look at misaligned environments, okay, safety addiction doesn't just live in you. It lives in your environment. If you spend time in rooms where truth isn't welcome, right, where masculinity is feared, right, where having the edge is punished, or where the wildness is seen as a problem, you will start to shrink just to stay accepted. Right? The body knows this is not my home here. Right? Your spirit knows it's leaking. Your nervous system, craves approval. So guess what? You fucking stay. And the real tax on you is on your energy. It's not your workload. It's the cost of pretending. Right? And if we look at the spiritual truth here, you can't numb your way to destiny. You can't regulate your way to purpose. You can't breathe away the parts of you that want to fucking roar. Safety is not the goal. Integration is. Right? Power doesn't return when you feel ready. It returns when you move in truth. Even when you're fucking shitting yourself, you're trembling, right? And that begins right fucking now. Okay? You really have to step and look in that mirror. Because when I looked in that mirror, I had a shock, right? Because see, for so many years, I had every reason to point outwards, right? Blaming the system, my addiction, the chaos I was born into, the trauma, the prison time, the paralysis, the relapses, the losses, the grief, death, everything. And see, for the longest time, I blamed fucking everything and everybody. Poor me was my war cry, right? I told myself I was stuck because life had broken me too many times, because I was dealt a shitty hand, because no one ever taught me how to be a real man, right? Because I had too much to repair and I wasn't strong enough to do it, right? And that came not in a moment, but over a short period of time. And it wasn't a breakdown. It wasn't a rock bottom. They had already happened multiple times. This was different, right? I was years into my sobriety. I had built the body that I wanted. I was fucking training hard. I was serving. I was coaching. I was showing up for my family. And on the outside, I was fucking doing great. It looked like fucking I was living the life. I was living the dream. But guess what? I knew different. I knew I was still settling. I knew I was still sitting in comfort. Right? And I had this question that kept repeating in my head over and over again. Why are you still scared? And also, what are you still hiding from? Right? And I knew the answer. Right? I was scared of being seen. Right? I was hiding from my own truth. Right? I'd been hiding behind recovery. I'd been hiding behind spirituality, behind discipline, behind I've came so far, look at me, right? But the truth is, I still hadn't became who I was here to be. I knew I still had more to give, right? I was still scared to be fully seen, scared to speak publicly, right? Still scared to step into the spotlight of my own voice. And that YouTube channel that I created sat dormant for months. Right? Everything was done, banner done, description written, your channel's created. It was ready to go. But for months, no uploads, no videos, fucking silence. Right? I kept telling myself I was waiting for the right moment. I was waiting till this, I was waiting till that. Right? But what I was really doing, I was playing small, staying in my comfort zone. I was preaching to others that growth happens outside the comfort zone. But I wasn't practicing what I was preaching. I was a fucking hypocrite. And I gave myself so many different excuses. Right? But the thing is, you can fool others, but you cannot fool yourself. Right? And I realised that if I wanted to feel aligned, I had to start acting aligned. Right? Because it was me. I was my worst enemy. No one else. No one was stopping me. Not my past, not my family, not society. Me. I was the one tightening the leash. I was the one dimming the fire. I was the one building the cage. And I was the one locking the fucking door to that cage. And not because I was lazy, not because I didn't care, right? But because shrinking had once kept me safe. It had protected me from judgment, from failure, from being exposed. But now it was costing me everything. My peace of mind, my fire, my mission, my voice, my happiness, my joy. And see, the thing about it, the worst thing about it was, I was getting guidance for the longest time to go and be authentically me. I was getting sign after sign, synchronicity after synchronicity to go out and be me authentically. But I was still holding back because I felt weak, right? And I knew that I was the only one who could change my reality. I had to make a decision because the pain of staying the same was the greater than the pain of having to change. No more waiting, no more apologising for who I really am, no more hiding behind what I'd already overcome. Because I knew I wasn't born just to survive my past. I knew I had went through what I'd went through for a reason, and I was to lead from that place. And the more that I leaned into that, That's the more synchronicities I've received, the more messages I've received, the more divine nudges that have shown up. Right? Not as signs to be cautious, but as confirmation to keep going. In fact, to go fucking all in. And that's what I done. Because I wasn't stuck. I was stalling. I didn't need another breakthrough. I needed to remember who the fuck I was. And brother, see if you're honest with yourself. Is there a part of you that you're still hiding? Because see, as children, right, we learn that certain behaviours keep us safe, keep us loved, and others get us punished or abandoned. So we cut off parts of ourselves. We become agreeable, quiet, good. Right, see, that survival strategy, that becomes our personality. But see, as adults, those same patterns that once kept us safe, they now keep us small. Right, and your nervous system is wired to avoid perceived threats. Not just physical danger, but social rejection, failure, even success if it feels unfamiliar. So when you approach growth, asking for more, risking vulnerability, speaking your truth, your body throws up resistance. It floods you with doubts, fears. It whispers, just don't rock the boat, stay quiet, play small. So it's not a sign to stop. It's a signal that you're at your edge. And your edge is where the fucking cage breaks. It's time for you to take that step, brother. Because the parts of you that you've judged, your intensity, your ambition, your anger, your fucking wildness, they're not problems to fix. They're power waiting to be reintegrated. And until you reclaim them, you'll keep building a life around your own avoidance. And I see that moment I faced the man in the mirror. I didn't feel shame. I felt sobriety. Not just the absence of addiction, but the presence of self-responsibility. The realization that if I had built this cage, I could then dismantle it and build something completely different. And that's the truth most men miss. Your limits are not permanent. They are patterns, and those patterns can be broken. This is why I spend so much time studying the ancient cultures, the warriors, so I can learn from the ones who have come before me, the ones who have overcame it and done it before. Because this struggle isn't new. Long before there were smartphones and fucking apps and morning routines, men faced the same invisible war. The battle between comfort and calling, between safety and soul. Every wisdom tradition, every warrior lineage had rights to confront this. Not because they were obsessed with pain, but because they understood this core truth that freedom isn't given, it's created. And if you look at the Spartans, right? In ancient Sparta, boys were removed from their homes around the age of 7 and placed into agoge, right? It was a brutal training regime, okay? Not to create war machines, but to burn away weakness, to sever the dependency on comfort, to teach them your body is not your master, your fear is not your God, right? What was left wasn't just strength, it was presence. A man who knew who the fuck he was, because he had nothing left to hide behind anymore. And if you look at the indigenous cultures all over the world, they send their young men into the wild, alone, with no food, no protection for days. Why? Because isolation strips away the masks. Silence reveals that inner voice. Hunger humbles the ego. And nature shows you what the soul really needs. They return not with fucking trophies and medals, but with vision, clarity, and new identity created by facing the unknown. Right? And you look at the samurais, they live by Bushido, the way of the warrior. It wasn't about combat, it was about conduct, honour, discipline, inner stillness. Right? The samurai believed that how you sweep the floor is how you wield the sword. Right? That means is your field is your legacy. How you do anything is how you shape your reality. Right? And we look at the Stoics, they practice power through stillness. Okay, men like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they weren't warriors of the battlefield. They were warriors of perception. Right? You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That's what Marcus Aurelius said. Okay, the Stoics taught that life will throw storms, but your power is how you respond. They believed discomfort wasn't a punishment, it was training. That you don't grow by chasing ease, you grow by meeting resistance with reason, breath, and will. Right? And what does this mean for you? Because look at this modern world. What do we have that turns our boys into men? Very little, fuck all, no rights, no honest initiation, no meaningful struggle. Just a society numbed by comfort and fragmented by confusion. And no wonder we live in a world with 500 fucking pronouns when we can't even define what strength means anymore. Discipline is mocked, truth is optional, comfort is king. So now it's up to you. You who can feel something waking up inside. It's you who knows that playing small is killing something sacred and powerful inside you. And you're not just doing this for you. You're doing it to rewire your bloodline. You're doing this so your sons won't inherit your silence. You're doing this so men around you stop dying in slow motion to comfort. If you look at the teachings of the Stoics and any ancient warrior culture, the men knew they didn't talk about strength. They practiced it every single day. They didn't seek power through noise. They sought it through stillness, responsibility, and restraint. They trained themselves to act from virtue, not impulse, to lead their emotions instead of being ruled by them. Okay? And Seneca said it's not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It's because we do not dare that they are difficult. Right? And the Stoic path, like any ancient warrior path, demands initiation. And the thing is, you don't need to vanish into the wilderness or go to a monastery or go and fucking bleed in some cinematic battle, but you do need to choose your initiation. You just need to choose your discomfort on purpose. Wake up early when it's hard, right? Speak what you're afraid to say. Push your body when it's fucking trying to tell you to coast. Stand still when fear tells you to run. Tell the truth, even when your fucking voice is shaking. Because the world doesn't reward men who stay safe. It responds to men who remember who the fuck they are. Right? And now that you've remembered this, it's time to rebuild it, and let's do it together. Let's walk on this path of realignment. Because if you want your power back, this is how you will get it. This isn't about motivation, this is about momentum. Right? When men say that they feel lost, stuck, or numb, what they're usually experiencing is a collapse in self-leadership. So here's the rebuild, right? 4 steps. Each one is a power circuit. So let's go deep. Right, step number 1, audit your agreements. This is your energetic leak locator. Right, you can't be dangerous. And when I say dangerous, I mean in the grounded, powerful sense. Right, you can't be dangerous while quietly betraying your truth. Right, comfort often hides in people pleasing, the misaligned yeses. Right, this step forces you to face where your power is bleeding through comfort-based compliance. Okay, so, look at where you're silently agreeing to live out of sync. Now, these can be spoken agreements, like, for example, your work obligations that you hate, or unspoken ones, like staying quiet just to avoid conflict. So, how you do it is you write down the top 4 areas of your life: fitness, family, fulfillment, and finances. Okay? Now, ask for each one, right? Where am I saying yes when I really mean no? Right? What agreements drain me the most right now? Okay, and why does this matter? Because every time you say yes to something misaligned, your nervous system feels it as tension. Over time, this becomes chronic stress, right? Spiritually, it weakens your signal, right? It tells life that I don't trust my voice, right? So I'll give you an example, right? You say yes to every client, even the ones who underpay you or who aren't aligned with you, right? All because you're afraid to lose income, but it's causing you to feel bummed out. But see, the moment you stop and say, this client no longer fits who I'm becoming, or this client is no longer aligned, and you set a boundary, your energy lifts and new aligned work will show up. Clients who are aligned with you and what you're doing. Okay, step number 2, right? Restore somatic integrity. Right, this is your body as a signal antenna. Because dangerous men aren't reactive, they're regulated. And this step trains the nervous system to meet pressure with breath, not panic. right? It replaces emotional fragility with physical coherence. It removes comfort from the body's defaults and restores signal clarity. So what is it, right? Power doesn't live in your thoughts, it lives in your body. And your body tells the truth faster than your mind. If your nervous system is fried, you'll sabotage even with the best intentions, right? So how to do it? Begin your day with cold exposure, right? Cold shower, or stick your face in a bowl of icy water, right? You'll move your body with tension and focus. Throw some fucking heavy weights about, kettlebells, whatever it is, right? You want to move your body with tension and focus. Okay? And as you move, speak your intentions out loud. I am building coherence. I hold under pressure. Tell yourself these kind of things. And why does this matter? Because your vagus nerve, which is a major player in your calm and response system, that resets with breath and movement. You teach your body how to stay grounded under pressure. Right? This is essential for leadership. Now, for example, you're triggered after an argument with your wife, right? So instead of stewing or reacting in a negative way, you go outside, you do 50 push-ups, right? Or you take a walk while breathing slowly and steadily. When you return, you speak clearly, not from reaction, but from regulation. Okay? This is so powerful when you start living like this. Step number 3, right? This is reactive inner leadership, right? So micro decisions, they create a macro reality, right? The dangerous man doesn't wait to be ready. He moves, right? This step rebuilds the habit of decisive movement over safety delay. It trains you to override the comfort addicted identity by acting before the inner critic can sabotage momentum, right? So what is it, right? Power returns when you become the kind of man who does what he says he's going to do, especially when no fucker's watching. Right, so how do you do it? So you just ask yourself, what's the next obvious action I've been avoiding? Right? Then do it straight away before the inner critic talks you out of it. Right? It doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be done. And why does this matter? Every time you follow through, you rebuild trust with yourself. You start believing your own voice. Right? And that belief radiates everywhere. Okay? I'll give you an example. Right? You've been avoiding a difficult email. So you sit down, you write it, and you send it. No overthinking. Right? That small action sends a deep signal to your psyche. I move forward. I handle tension. Right? And that it could be anything. Just if you ask yourself, what's the next obvious action that I have to do? You'll get it. Do it. Right? Step number 4. Right? Align to your heart vision. Right? This is truth-based goal calibration. Right? Most men shrink the vision to stay safe. Right? This step breaks that. It says, go for what it is that you truly want, your true end result, the real thing, not the socially acceptable or the fear-filtered version. Right? That's how danger becomes purpose. You're not here to play it safe. You're here to build what scares the shit out of you. My mentor said, if your vision doesn't scare you, it's not the right vision. Okay? Because your power can't fully activate if your vision is built on compromise or fear. If you're chasing a goal you don't believe in, your system will resist. Right? So just, how do we do it? Right? Ask yourself, what is it I actually want? Right? If money was no problem, if there was no limitations, what is it that I would love to do? Even if I was scared. What? And then, once you've got that crystal clear in your mind, what's the one action I can take today that aligns with the deeper truth? Then take that step no matter how big or how small it is. Okay, and why does this matter? When you align action to a heart-anchored vision, you literally shift your brain chemistry, right? Dopamine, your motivational neurochemical, starts connecting with purpose, not distraction. Right? For example, you want to write a book, but you keep telling yourself, I'm not ready. Right? Instead, you say, the real me writes. You open up a doc, you write 200 words, right? 100 words, whatever it is. That shift begins the future you were scared to claim. Right? See, when you walk this path, you feel changes. You don't just feel better, you become better. Right? More steady, more clear, more dangerous. And when I say dangerous, I mean in the best possible way. Right? And let's walk into legacy. You didn't come this far just to feel better. You came here to become someone who leaves something behind. And let's be clear, this isn't about legacy in the ego sense. This is not about fame, followers, or some fucking quote on your headstone. Legacy is what your nervous system transfers to the people around you, to your children, to your partner, to the men who are watching you in silence. It's a signal that you leave in a room long after you've walked out. And this is the reality here. Most men will die with their power still locked inside of them because they waited, because they didn't trust themselves, because they were afraid that if they stepped up, then they would lose the comfort or be seen as arrogant. But you've come this far because there's a part of you that knows that you were never meant to stay hidden. You were never meant to fit in a cage, right? You were created in the fire for a reason. And see, the next season of your life, it demands your full presence, not perfection, your presence, right? You don't need to be the strongest in the room. You just need to be the man who doesn't fucking flinch, right? When the client ghosts you, when your partner calls you out, when your old partners are screaming to be fed, you stand still, you speak your truth, you move with intent. That is legacy, right? It's what your son will feel when he watches you keep your word. It's what your daughter will remember when she chooses a man. It's what your teen will carry when you're not in the room. So it's time to seal that shit right now. Breathe, speak your directive, move with alignment. Because the world doesn't need more men chasing comfort. It needs more men who transmit coherence. And see that man is fucking you when you choose it. And let's see how willing you are to choose it. Because I've got a mission for you here. And this isn't just a good conversation, this is an initiation. Because knowing this means nothing unless you live it. Right? So here's a mission for you to carry out the next 72 hours. Pick the area in your life you've been playing it safe. Right? Saying yes when you mean no. Holding back on the project you know that you're here to build. Letting comfort dictate your energy. Now, ask yourself, what would the dangerous version of me do here? And then do it. Right? Not next week, now. Right? Simple prompts, right? What action have I been avoiding? Where am I waiting for safety before I move? What version of me dies if I keep hesitating? Okay? And get that shit done. If something in this video called you today, then join me on this journey. Leave me a little like, subscribe to the channel, because this is just the beginning, guys. We are here to create a movement of men who are done settling, who are ready to claim what they came here for. Right? Drop a comment, tell me what's your field mission. Right? And share this with another brother who's ready to wake the fuck up. Because power doesn't respond to noise, it responds to movement, and we are creating a movement right now. So if you're still watching this, you've already begun the shift. Now it's time to move it into your bones. And as always, I truly appreciate you. I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. Thanks for being on this journey with me. You truly inspire me and help me become a better version of myself. So thank you. I love you guys. And I'll catch you on the next one. Got a video here and you can subscribe here. Take care. Bye.